Have you ever wondered how you actually turn around a mobile home park and make it a better place to live and make it more valuable? In this video, that's exactly what I'm going to show you how to do. My name is Jeff Flynn, and I own over 10 mobile home parks across the Southeast, and I'm actually going to show you the first deal I ever bought today and walk you through exactly what we did to improve the quality of the property and the value. So the backstory on this deal is that it was an off-market 35-lot mobile home park. Now, the owner had inherited the land decades ago from his parents, and he owned his own septic company. So basically, the way this park was built is one lot at a time, as he was not busy with his septic company and he had somebody wanting to move a home onto his land. He'd go out there, he'd set up the water, the sewer, the power, and then let them move in. So it organically grew over time. It wasn't just necessarily developed from the beginning. Now, what had happened over the 3 or 4 decades he owned it is that he really didn't keep rents up where the market was. Now, a lot of landlords will basically charge new rent on new people, but in a mobile home park, people stay for decades. And so that idea really does not work. And so some point, probably 10 years before we bought it, he'd stopped increasing rents at all and really just stopped fixing a lot of the major issues that was happening at the park. So the first thing we did when we came in there is we had to implement new systems. Now, the owner lived 5 minutes away, so he would just go collect cash or checks in person, which obviously we couldn't do. So we had to set up a system where people could pay online or go to the bank and pay. Now, since I did this deal, it was my first one, and there's some things I regret, and letting people pay at the bank was one of them. Now what we do is we let people either pay online or they can mail a check to our P.O. box, which automatically scans it, which is a really good way to go. The other system we implemented was advertising. So the old owner was close by, and he basically just used the word of mouth method. If somebody knew about the park and wanted to move in, he'd meet them there and let them move in, but there was really no advertising, which he could get away with because the demand was that high. So we ended up advertising empty lots on Facebook Marketplace and putting the property on Google Maps. That's a very simple approach. However, it's been able to attract over half a dozen new homes since we bought the property. Another major thing that we tackled was deferred maintenance. So because the owner was charging only $165 a month, there really wasn't a healthy enough budget to fix major items like the road and the mailboxes and things like that as it came up. So one of the things we had to do was fix a road, which was about $50,000. Now, the way we actually financed this was after about a year of operating the park and we got a lot of the other issues fixed from the cash flow, we were able to go to the bank, show them that the value had increased. They were able to give us a line of credit, which we used to put a concrete entrance and then do asphalt throughout the rest of the road. Now, this improvement was really, really nice because it boosted the value of the property tremendously. The tenants finally had a nice road to drive on to their home, and what we noticed after this is we had an uptick on people applying wanting to move their homes in. And I think the reason this happens is because people don't want to move their $60,000 mobile home that they just bought into a park that seems to be going downhill. But as soon as they saw a massive improvement into what we invested into the property, other people realized that the new owners were here to fix things. And after that, we saw about 3 new homes get moved in. So those were the ways in which we made the community actually better, but we also had to make the property more valuable to make the numbers work. So part of what we did was rent raises. Now, when we bought this property, the owner was only charging $165 a month, which if you really look into it, you can barely afford to fix anything at that price. Now, we had a loan. On top of that, we had a lot of deferred maintenance we had to catch up on. So we actually took the rent from $165 to $265. Now, I know what you're thinking, that is a massive percentage increase, but here's how we had to look at it. We had to hit the debt service coverage ratio that the bank required to do the loan, and that was the number we discussed with them that would work. The other component is that $265 was still by far the cheapest mobile home park lot rent that we could find in the area. On top of that, most of these tenants had been there so long they own their own home, so we're talking about their only living expense being $265. Now, if we look back to when this property was first created to where it was that point, inflation should have taken it much past 165, somewhere in the high 300, low 400 range, but the owner just wasn't doing the annual increases. So we had to unfortunately be the bad guy and get the rents up to be able to maintain the community. Now, when we did this, my partner and I actually went door to door introducing ourselves to all the tenants. And to my surprise, when we explained our plans for the property to do the roads, fix the mailboxes, and make improvements, people were actually very receptive to the new ownership and the new rates. Now, I'm not going to tell you that people are happy to pay more money. However, they are happy to pay more money if it means that they get more value. And in this case, that's exactly what we did. We charged more, but we made the property better. Now, interestingly enough, when we increased the rents, we were able to fix things And when we fixed those things, we found that new people were actually wanting to move into the park. So by charging higher rates, we were actually in effect able to increase our occupancy, which is not what you would think. And the most interesting part about that is that the people who were moving in were not paying $265. They were paying $400 a month. This is the really interesting part about turning around a mobile home park, is that you have an owner and a lot of tenants who are stuck with the way things were 15 or 20 or even 30 years ago in some cases. But when you look at today's numbers, you can tell that the gap is massive. And in our case, we could see new people moving in at 400 with their own brand new homes. And so for us, it was a sign that, hey, we are onto something. And after that, we've continued to improve the property with landscaping and new signage and that sort of thing. So even though the new tenants were moving in at 400, we didn't just take all the old tenants to that. Over time, we gradually increase them until we get everybody to market rate when the market value of the property itself is there. And today, this is what the property looks like. So we've redone the roads. We've got a concrete entrance. And what you see back here, this was basically when we did the roads, the people had to get in and out of the park for a little bit. And so they had to use this back road, which has since kind of gotten back to normal and it looks like normal grass. But this is what we've done and improved the property. And you'll notice every lot is full. There are still a little bit of old homes in there that we need to eventually, get on them about repairing. But we've got a ton of brand new homes that have moved into the property at $400 a month lot rent. So we're talking about buying a community in which the rent when we bought it was $165, and new people are moving in at $400. And that's one of the reasons I love mobile home parks, is because there's just such a gap on where they are and where they could be. And it's not just necessarily taking the old tenants and all making them pay a new market lot rent overnight. What it is you're actually getting the value of this community up, and the supply for affordable housing is so low and the demand is so extreme that there are so many people who want to move into these types of communities when they're actually maintained properly. Now, the best part about this deal is my partner and I have no cash tied up in the deal anymore, right? We got the value up so much in the 2.5 years before we refinanced it that we were actually able to get a new loan and pull out all the money we put into it. So now we basically own this property, and our intention is to own it for the rest of our lives and just continually improve it and continually operate it, and over time just make it better and better as the years go on. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, because I'm constantly going to be putting out new content on teaching people how you can actually build wealth and cash flow through mobile home park investing. And these are not fluff. I'm not selling a course. This is just actual strategies that we're currently doing today that seem to be working.